So it's July 8th as I'm recording this, and this is my first recording of myself for the podcast. So if you're watching on YouTube, hi. I have the dog who's sitting right there next to me, but I'm not gonna make him come to my side right now because otherwise he's just gonna keep on barking, I think. But maybe. So today on the podcast, I will mainly talk about the revision process for The Leftover Bride, as well as the moment where I thought that I could not do it and how I managed to do it. A lot of talk about decision fatigue. And that's pretty much it for today because I'm deep in the revision and I cannot do anything else in terms of projects, in terms of anything else. What did I do? I did run an ad to get new newsletter subscribers. And if you are one of them, hello, thank you for joining. We'll be talking about revising The Leftover Bride, especially the first 5 chapters, and giving an update on how I went from 16,000 words about to 8,000 words, give or take, for the first 5 chapters. So what is fascinating to me is that the story has not changed, the characters have not changed, their motivations have not changed. The story is basically the same. It's just that in the second chapter, it starts at a different point in time for Ryan, who is the hero of my story. And it also starts a bit differently in the first chapter for Sorka, who is the heroine of my story. And then I delete another chapter. Poor Ryan, he got like one chapter that was really condensed and the other one got totally deleted. And I don't miss it, meaning that when I'm rereading it and I've reread it from a different angle, meaning that, yeah, I know what happened, but now I'm reading it as it goes and it's much stronger than what it was, meaning that the pacing has changed. And one of the comments from one of my critic partners was that the story did not drag along. Like, it was not dragging, but it took an entire for them, because they've read like the first in total they have the first 25 chapters, so they've read, for that particular part, it was the first 10 chapters, and they've read them and it was about 31,000 words. So yeah, to get to one point, I was taking a lot of time. And now I'm arriving to that point within 15 to 16,000 words. I'm still cutting a little bit. I'm still rearranging a few things, because another thing, and that's what I'm going to show you right now, is that when I'm cutting things, it's not like everything stays the same, right? I have to rearrange. I have to make sure everything makes sense. Meaning that my first chapter's timeline was that Sorka, and if you have not read it, spoiler, if you have read it, you'll see what has changed. So I had Sorka arriving, preparing for her date. So she was preparing for her date. She was sad because of an email she got, and she was talking to her sister. So she was getting the email live, even though I had already mentioned it in her diary, like, which I also condensed from about 1,000 words to 500 words. So I was mentioning it already in her diary, so I didn't have to go back through all the motions about like, oh, what's her feeling when she's gonna get. I can already get her feeling without having the entire what is the answer going to be moment, because that's not its main point. It's not the main point of the chapter. The main point of the chapter is that she runs into Ryan, and that happens at the end of the chapter. So I need to have things moving along for that particular moment to happen. And so I cut a lot of that. here and there. And then I finished a chapter the same way that it did, with lines that I really, really, really like. I'm going to share them here too. It's my first time trying this software and it looks pretty cool. And then I had, in the second chapter, I had Ryan arriving into Swans Cove. So I had his entire journey from the airport to Swans Cove. And it was just not like an info dump of backstory. It wasn't like he was talking to somebody on the phone. He was preparing for something. He was having memories, so that was a backstory. But he was having memories coming back depending on what he was seeing on the road. And then he was explaining why he was going to the bakery in a very few sentences, where he's going to end up running into Sorka. But since I finished her chapter with her falling down, and I'm not writing a romantic suspense, where sometimes I think that works, and I'm sure it works in romances as well, but like pure romance without the suspense. But at the same time, like, I don't need to amp up the suspense at this time. Like, they're running into each other. His motivation is not something I need to doubt. So I don't need to like add a lot of like information about blah, 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 all of that. So I start his chapter directly of him being in front of the bakery. And then another chapter that I caught, basically, it's him driving from the bakery to the restaurant, where he again will meet Sorka, because she's on a blind date, and the blind date is not, it's a bad blind date. Oops. And used my first 5 chapters from about 16,000 to 8,000. And let me tell you something. When I first got the feedback from my wonderful, I had to check my microphone was on, wonderful critic partners, Katie and Allison, if you are watching this video or listening to my podcast, thank you so much again for your time, your comments, your encouraging words, and also telling me when something was not working or when something is not working entirely the way that you think it could be even stronger. Because I sat on it for a couple of hours, and some writers will listen to me and say like, what, you didn't wait a week or two and put that aside and then come back for it with the comment? I don't have time. I don't have time because this book is getting published on August 18th, so I need to get it done. So right now my schedule is full on The Leftover Bride. I wake up, I work on The Leftover Bride, I go to sleep, I pull out my laptop, which I know is not good for like my sleeping habits, but I pull out my laptop and I work on it for 1 more hour. I work on it during the day, I think about it, but I did give myself some time to think about how am I going to do this. And here it's for maybe all writers, or if you're really interested in the behind the scenes too, and all the emotions that go through revision and writing, is that I did not think I could do it. Meaning that for 2 days I worked on it diligently. How do you say that word? So I worked on it. I took the time to work on it, and I was happy with the progress that I was making, and I was finding that, yes, having a pace that's faster and reducing the amount of words is great. And then I had another comment from one of my critic partners that maybe there's that one scene in a restaurant which nobody has gotten to but them, because it's after the first 5 chapters. And like, well, that should also be quicker. And one of her reaction, like, I don't see her doing that for that long. Could be a lot of things. But anyways, and at the beginning, I did not know how to make it work, because I was just kind of like, wow, but how? Like, yeah, she's frozen to her seat, so that's why she's not moving. But it's either A, my motivation was not clear enough, if there were questions about like, why isn't she, why is she still in the restaurant? Or B, I need to make something happen quicker again. And I did. And that's what I'm currently in the process of revising, is that particular moment. But again, I had, for those 2 days, I didn't know if I was going to be able to revise it. I didn't know if I was going to be able to give it justice. I doubted my writing ability. I doubted everything. And not because the comments were not harsh or anything like this. And they were direct in their comments, but they were not harsh. Like, that was just the truth. And they were helping me make my book better. However, for a while, I really didn't know if I could rise up to the challenge, if I had it in me. And that's where I guess the little diary, my podcast is called Self-Published Author's Diary. And that's where the diary comes in, is that I am very confident about this story. I still am, even though I had 2 days where I was not. And the reason why I still am is because, as I've mentioned before, they seem to really like the story. They seem to think it's funny. Actually, I know that they think it's funny. And that was what was really scaring me with that book. It's like, is that going to be... There is so much backstory for both of them. And some of that story is so hard. Especially he, with his family. Like, he has a thing where his bio father is not present. He's not a nice guy. And then the one he considered his dad had a few issues here and there with addiction. And so he's not like... He still has baggage. Like, he's still dealing with things. And she got stranded at the altar. She has OCD. She has anxiety and she has OCD, and she goes to therapy, and it's mainly under control. Like, she has the tools and everything to deal with all of that, but it's still something she deals with. And their comments was not about the substance of my story. It was not about the characters saying like, oh, you really need to like change something or layer them about something. Like, there was nothing, and it might still come. They still have a few pages. And again, the thing about, doubting everything is that it's the first book, and I think I've mentioned that before. It's the first book that I've written since transplant. My autologous stem cell transplant was in October 2019. And this is the book that I started writing in December 2019. And we're now in July 2021. And it took me so long because A, I could not write fast, and B, part of the reason why I froze so much with that feedback was that I really wondered for a bit, can I still do that? Or, when you get a stem cell transplant, a lot of people say that, it takes you a while to get back to your physical shape. It also can take you a while to get back to like your brain can feel fuzzy a little bit for a while. It's the same, what people call chemo brain. But I found that stronger with this transplant because you get super high chemo prior to transplant, since they wipe out your immune system and then put it back. So it was a fear I had. And one of the reasons why I started writing The Leftover Bride was because I needed to laugh. I was not ready to write a story that was super, super angsty. And there are angsty moments in The Leftover Bride, but not as much as my romantic suspense, which has a lot of angsty moments. So yeah, so this feedback has really helped me so much. And I think I'm going to have the full revised 5 chapters in my email to my newsletters. The way I was able to go through this hard stage of the revision process where I did not think I could actually do it, that I did not think it was going to work, was to really take it piece by piece. So I split my document. I don't have it in Scrivener right now because for the revision, I like to have it in Word. And I've been doing it chapter by chapter. Like I have a chapter that's called First 5 Chapters. Then I have another chapter, which is the next 5 chapters. And it's helping me to feel that it's more manageable instead of having the entire document and looking like, and it's like, oh my God, I still have that many pages to revise. It's making it more manageable to me. So that's the way I'm doing it right now, and it seems to be working. So yay. And yeah, just basically one word at a time, one page at a time, one chapter at a time, but in a lot of, but also I'm dedicating a lot of hours to that to make sure that the best book that I can is available to everybody on August 18th. Have I mentioned how much I love this book and how much I believe in that story and that series? It's just going back into Swan School for the revision. And it's one thing, I don't know if you have the same, if you're a writer, but when I draft, I sometimes, like I know how long I'm spending drafting. Like I know I'm making myself like sprints of 25 minutes. I dedicate an hour. When I'm drafting, I know exactly how much time I'm spending with my manuscript. When I'm revising, especially right now, I don't see the time fly. Like it flies, the time flies. I start, so I revised at night, and for example, so I revised all day, but I also revised after going to bed. So anyways, I revised for half an hour, but then the half an hour is actually an hour and 10 minutes. And then in the morning, I start revising, usually before breakfast. And then I start again. I take a break. I take the dog out. Like I walk the dog, usually. Not today. Even though today was less hot than yesterday. Anyways. And then I start revising, and 2 hours, 3 hours pass by so quickly. And then I have to make lunch, and then I start again during the afternoon. And yeah, the revision process, while it's like takes a lot of brain power, like I'm exhausted, it's still, I find it right now much easier than drafting. And it's interesting because I don't know if that was always like this for all my books, and I would need to keep track of that. Because right now the revision process is definitely, even though I had that moment where I did not think I was going to finish it, to be able to do it, it worked nicely. Another thing that I've noticed, and I told my husband about, was that, we all talk. There is a lot of talk about decision fatigue, how your brain gets decision fatigue if you have to take decisions all the time and to be the sharpest. Like sometimes you have to like wear the same clothes, have your clothes put away, like before you cannot, so you don't have to decide what you're going to wear, all those things. Well, I realized that as an author, yeah, like decision fatigue, the amount of decisions we have to make when we draft or revise, like everything may have potentially a meaning, may have potentially an effect later on for the character. Like if I'm thinking about Sorka and Ryan, the main characters of The Leftover Bride, deciding what sports Ryan was going to play, that has an impact for my entire book. That has an impact for the way he thinks. That has an impact for the way he acts sometimes in terms of his reaction to certain places. Like he's a hockey player. Well, he might refer to the rink more than he would refer to, I don't know, a stadium, like a football stadium. If he sees a football stadium, he might not have the same internal reaction than if he sees a rink where he used to skate when he was a kid. Those things matter for the story, and it matters for who he is as a character. I gave Sorka a lot of siblings. They have a lot of siblings. And those are decisions that matter. Decision fatigue, I think, might be something for writers, and I'm wondering if anybody has written about it. I have not Googled it yet because all I'm doing is revising right now. But if you have an article that you find interesting on the topic, let me know. Yeah, so thank you to everyone for listening, and thank you to everybody who has already pre-ordered The Leftover Bride, which is available for only 99 cents right now as a pre-order. And I'm going to do my very, very best to make it the best book I can. And yeah, thank you again, Katie and Addison, for reading it so quickly, for giving me the feedback so quickly. And yeah, I'm just very grateful. So it's hard. I didn't know if I could do it. And I haven't finished doing it yet. Like, it's still in progress. But I feel much better about it today than I did 2 days ago. I'm excited to get back to it. I'm not excited about the amount of hours that I have to spend working nonstop. And I like a lot of things are getting on, I'm not doing a lot of things with any of my other projects because this one has to take priority due to my deadline. I thought about pushing the deadline, but so far I want to keep it. And yeah, I'm going to give Ryan and Sorka their happily ever after. It's a romance, so it's not a spoiler. The two main characters are getting together. Like, this is not a spoiler. All right, well, on this note, if you have any questions about my process or about the book, you can leave a comment on the YouTube video, or you can also leave a comment on my blog, or happy writing if you're a writer, and to everybody, happy reading. Bye.